Your home for the Cowboys.
Prescott all the way, runs it in for the touchdown.
This is 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star, KTFM Floresville. San Antonio's Sports Center.
Well, go ahead and stop me if you've heard this before, but the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable franchise in the NFL, according to team valuation rankings for 2023, coming in 20% increase from last year at $9.2 billion, over $2 billion more than the next team, their NFC East rivals, the New York Giants, at $7.04 billion. The Houston Texans came just outside the top 10 at 11th at $5.35 billion.
This is Extra Innings with Pleasure.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Rock and roll! The Texans win it!
You've been called the Da Vinci of our time. What do you say to that?
Absolutely ridiculous. I don't paint.
That goal is history, a walk-off home run.
And it's going to be legendary.
James Pledger wraps your day with insight, opinion, plenty of sarcasm, and of course, your calls. He'll even pour a beer out the door for his favorite story of the day. This is Extra Innings with Pledger. Now, here's Pledge.
Welcome into Extra Innings with Pleasure right here on San Antonio Sports Star, 94.1 FM, sasportstar.com. I am James Pledger. Thanks for riding along with me this evening right here on your home for everything Dallas Cowboys. As a matter of fact, those Dallas Cowboys, they got a game this week finally. All that stuff, everything we've seen from the offseason to the additions of Brandon Cooks, Stephon Gilmore, all the re-signings, Leighton Vander Esch, Don Wilson, Jonathan Hankins, the additions of Mozzie Smith, Luke Schoonmaker. They get to play a game on Saturday. And we are your home for the Dallas Cowboys right here, and we will have that game. It all starts at 3 o'clock. And of course, Dallas Cowboys football is brought to you by, as always, Mother's Window Tint, Woods Comfort Systems, Ewald Kubota, and the law office of Jesse Hernandez, the Texas Chancla. But we get football tomorrow. Real football tomorrow with real potential starters. That's right. The Houston Texans take the field tomorrow as they take on the New England Patriots tomorrow evening. John McClain's going to join the Blitz. As a matter of fact, the Blitz guys are going to be joining me tonight. Coming up here in just about 5-10 minutes, Jason Minnick's going to hop on with me as we talk about the Cowboys and their possibly historic defense, according to Micah Parsons. And Joe Reinagle, as they had a great topic today after the Johnny Manziel debate, and there's no debating how great it was to watch Johnny Manziel play in real life, both in college and in high school, and how otherworldly he was. But bringing up some of the greats that you've gotten to watch during your time period here, that's, whew. I started thinking about names like Jace Amaro, tight end for the MacArthur Bramas, who at that point went on to play at Texas Tech, and after that got drafted by the New York Jets in the second round, if I remember correctly. I mean, he was just a beast of a receiving threat. Jaquiz Rogers, New Braunfels had a really good team one year. Ryan Perez led it, I believe, who ended up playing at Air Force Academy, but they ran into Consolidated in the state semis, and Jaquiz Rogers could not be stopped in that game. I think he ran for like 230-something yards, if I remember correctly. It was insane. Ended up playing with his brother up at Oregon State. But, man, there have been some great athletes to come through the area that I've been lucky enough to see live in person, including one, yes, James Conner, Chase Daniel, the Ranger Killer, and the best backup quarterback in NFL history. That dude cashed checks left and right. And yes, he was a Ranger killer, played for South Lake Carroll, ends up getting them into position for a 44-yard field goal to win it at the buzzer up in Irving at what was then Texas Stadium before Jerry World opened. That one hurt. I want to say it was 2002. That one hurt me personally. But it was a fantastic topic. I'd like to dive more into that with them because, as you know, Jason and Joe, being Jason just doing high school football for as long as he has, from Smiths Valley to KGMB to Spectrum to, I mean, he sits on the board that selects the All-Stars for the HEB High School All-American game. He does the U.S. Army All-American games every year. So he's seen quite a bit of talent roll through on a high school football field. So it'll be interesting to kind of see not just covered live in San Antonio area, but just covered in general, because he's truly seen some great players. And Joe, same thing. All those years with Ken's doing wrap-up shows, high school football. Joe's got a vast knowledge of things that have gone on here in the San Antonio area, and it's very interesting. But the Houston Texans open up their preseason tomorrow night, and we get to see, not like the Jets game where it's going to be a bunch of back. You're going to get to see starters. The Texans are going to roll out CJ Stroud. He is starting that game. You're going to get to see the starting offense for a little bit. You're going to get to see kind of what that new look Bobby Slowick, Kyle Shanahan offense is going to look like and how effective it could possibly be, how quickly CJ Stroud is catching on to things, and if he's going to be ready to possibly take those reins and run with them come week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. There's been a lot of hype surrounding the Houston Texans this offseason. Hype as in, this is a team that just has some good vibes going, and it's felt. And it's felt not just by Houstonians, not just by Texans fans. You're starting to see people across the league feel those good vibes. You saw the NFL Network out there talking with them. It's going to be incredible to watch. And I doubt we see Dameon Pierce, which is fine. I doubt we see Devin Singletary, also fine. I kind of would like to see some of those other backs in the backfield just to see, a Xavier Valade, kid out of Arizona State, undrafted free agent. Kind of looks like a perfect fit. And that's the thing. You can't garner anything out of practices and everything with running backs because there's no contact, there's no to the ground. You can't really get a really good gauge, which is why, Deuce Vaughn can look as explosive as he wants in practices with the Dallas Cowboys. Until those are live reps where they're going to the ground and people aren't trying to hold off on you, you can't tell. And running backs are the one position where it's like you've got to see it, which is where preseason games come in handy, because players that are undrafted free agents trying to make a roster, they can make a name for themselves in the preseason, whether they get on with the team they're currently on or find their way onto another roster after final cuts. Because remember, final cuts, you get one cut now. You're down to 53. You're getting ready for the regular season. That's the cut line. They're not doing that 53 to 90, 90 to 75 to 53. They're not doing all that anymore. It's one massive cut. You got to make some decisions, and you start to see teams kind of make moves earlier now because of it. Fred Villarreal on our YouTube live feed says, can't wait to see CJ Stroud and the Texans tomorrow. Man, I'm with you. I've been pumped about this. I've been dreaming about the first game action since the draft in Kansas City. I'm just so incredibly hyped because of everything that has come in the last 4 or 5 months since April 28th. And I can't wait for the NFL season to get here. And you also get to start looking at people like, ooh, is he going to be a fantasy breakout star? Is that guy? Yeah, that's right. Start getting your fantasy rosters ready. I know one guy that's been impressing in camp that if you're going to waste a late round pick, and when I say late round, I say like kind of last, Justin Ross in Kansas City has been turning some heads. And he was a former first-round pick before injuries at Clemson. And he has kind of been sidelined because of those injuries, one of them a back injury. But he looks to be healthy, and he looks to be turning heads. I don't know if he's turning heads because we've expected it from him, but Micah Parsons had some interesting things to say on the Pivot podcast. And as a football fan, I don't care who you're a fan of. If you heard a player saying things like this about your team, you would be through the moon too, and you would have a very, very high opinion knowing what they've added and how good it can be. We're going to talk about some of those comments with Jason Minix coming up next right here on Extra Innings with Pleasure on San Antonio Sports Star 94.1 FM and ESPNSA.com.
The boys from San Antonio Sports Star are back from Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California, and the tales to tell. 7 days and 7 nights of training camp coverage, and that was just at all of Jerry Jones's parties.
We get stuck on that all week.
Security, of course, provided by AA Best Bail Bonds.
Dak Prescott joining us here on The Blitz. You know, during the year, Mike McCarthy is on our morning show with Rob Thompson and Rudy J. They send them breakfast tacos.
Is that who that comes from?
What is the preferred breakfast taco of Dak Prescott?
Sausage, bacon, and eggs with the hash browns in it.
I mean,
That's not an every week thing.
Well, you have to win.
There's a trend.
It's only after a win.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we've had a lot of wins these past seasons.
Cowboys training camp presented by AA Best Bail Bonds. Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds. Texas Cheer Liquor. 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star and SASportsStar.com.
If you get arrested, get out of jail fast. On 210-225-2121. Text bail to 474747 or online mybestbailbonds.com. You don't have to call attorneys or anybody else. Don't be forced into a PR bond. If the jail offers you one, make sure you understand the conditions before accepting it. AA Best Bail Bonds. Nobody beats their price. They have payment plans. Call 210-225-2121 or mybestbailbonds.com.
License number 149.
Not all pizza places are the same. Mellow Mushroom originated hand-tossed, stone-baked classic Southern pizza. Not in the mood for pizza? Order a calzone, hoagie, sandwich, burger, or a mellow salad and see how care goes into every item on the menu. Take your pick from 24 draft beers and or handcrafted cocktails. And many of the pizzas can be made gluten-free or vegan. Mellow Mushroom is at 1604 and Stone Oak Parkway. Hang with friends, watch the game, and mellow out at Mellow Mushroom.
You know you have hard water. This is Chris Canepa with Connecticut and San Antonio in the Hill Country. And for just around $1 a day, the hard water gets softened away with a professional whole house water softener from Connecticut. Soften your water, spare your hair, and protect your clothing. It's so affordable for around $1 a day. Finally eliminate those hard water spots on your granite countertop and shower. So don't delay. Visit ConnecticutSA.com. Some people get caught in the cycle of wasting money on other softeners that continually break and leave them disappointed. With a Connecticut, you will actually invest your money into something that lasts and works again and again. It's why Dave Ramsey recommends Connecticut and why we say it's the last water softener you'll ever own. A Connecticut water softener is up to 80% more efficient than competing models, and it's the water softener in South Texas you can depend on. Call my team at 210-656-PURE or online at ConnecticutSA.com.
ConnecticutSA.com.
If you're a man and you live in San Antonio or the surrounding areas, you need to pay close attention to what I'm about to say. Are you having issues rising to the occasion? Do you constantly worry about whether or not you can perform? Have you completely stopped having adult time? Is it something you just don't talk about? Guys, we have a solution. Mojo, the 100% guaranteed male enhancement pill that's fast, effective, and was designed to reignite passion, performance, and confidence in the bedroom. Yeah. Be ready at a moment's notice with the Mojo Male Enhancement Pill from Pure Line Nutrition. And for those of you who have used Mojo, check out Mojo Enduramax.
Touchdown!
A new formula that improves the potency and effectiveness of Mojo. Get fast results, last longer, and be the man she'll never forget. Mojo and Mojo Enduramax, 100% natural male enhancement formulas only available at Pure Line Nutrition. Call now, 210-494-2210. That's 210-494-2210. Or visit us online at thepureline.com.
Does that knee pain keep getting worse? How about the pain in your shoulder, hip, or back? Don't let them tell you that steroids and surgery are your only option, and take my advice now to call QC Kinetics. Hey, it's James Pledger with San Antonio Sports Star, and QC Kinetics can make that pain go away with all-natural, advanced, regenerative medicine. They help people here every day with these amazing natural treatments that restore and repair damaged joint tissue. It's like turning back the clock. Regenerative medicine uses concentrated healing agents from your own body to stimulate that damaged tissue in your joints so they work like they're supposed to, and there's zero downtime to it. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting medical breakthrough, and patients here are getting real, lasting relief. And they're saying no to surgery and drugs. If you have pain due to injury or arthritis, you need to check this out, and the consultation's free. Call QC Kinetics now at 210-571-0318. That's 210-571-0318. 210-571-0318. Locations in Hollywood Park, Westover Hills, and New Braunfels.
This is Rudy J from R&R in the Morning. Join us tomorrow morning at 6 on your ride to work. Now, more with Joe and Amber on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
Oh, it's Saturday night. A break for the wicked on the weekend. Mama, can I get another amen?
Welcome back to Extra Innings with Pledger right here on San Antonio Sports Star 94.1 FM, sasportstar.com. I'm James Pledger. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and the socials at I Am Pledger. Follow the station at SA Sports Star, including our YouTube feed. Like, subscribe, comment along with me. Micah Parsons, man, the things he said on the Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark were absolutely incredible. And he talked about wanting to be historically great, getting over the hump, Super Bowls, taking the blame for the loss to San Francisco, what makes Dak great, experience, a whole bunch of things. But he also talked about if you ain't following, he's going to drag you.
I used to do. Like, I'd be in meetings and not writing down. Now, every time you won't catch me in a meeting not writing something. Like, I'm trying to just grab something like that Q saying, so that way it's correlating out to the field. So when I see young guys, I'm like, yo, why are you writing? Like, I see young guys like this, they just watching, like, because they think they don't got no meaning. But I said, bro, I done been on my rookie year, D-Law, Randy, and DA. Our street starting DNs went down, and they moved me from linebacker. Like, you just never know when your time is going to get called. So for me, it's like, I need everybody on this top level now. Like, we got one shot, bro. You don't get a Stephon Gilmore every year. Like, you don't get a Brandon Cooks every year. Like, you know, and things I've been learning from them, bro, they like top-notch, heavy level. Like,
Jason Minix, co-host of the Blitz weekdays from 2 to 6, precedes me, produced that show, actually. He joins me now, and you've listened to a lot of what Micah Parsons had to say today. And everything I took from what he had to say was so poignant and focus-driven that it gave me almost Michael Jordan vibes in terms of just Kobe Bryant vibes, just a commitment to winning, Tom Brady vibes.
You know, what I find interesting, Pledge, is you hear that on the Pivot podcast and you're all excited. You're on board. Micah Parsons this entire offseason has had the same message, the same bravado, the same confidence on what he thinks this team can do, on how great he thinks this defense can be, and how hard he is working at it. And you're right. You know, you think about those special players that we have been able to watch that wake up energized and they do something every day to get better, as cliche as that sounds, but they make everybody around them better, that work ethic. I go back, and I know he didn't win a damn thing in Houston, but J.J. Watt was that way. J.J. Watt made everybody around him better. His game, he was never satisfied with it, and he elevated those around him. And, you bring up a Kobe as a champion, Michael Jordan, who is a champion. And, yeah, those vibes are certainly there. But greatness breeds greatness, and he demands it from himself, from his teammates. But he's not a guy that needs somebody to motivate him. He is self-motivated, and I'm loving it.
I love the fact that he's self-motivated, but also at the same time, like in that clip where he's like, you're not writing notes down? Write notes down. Like, I had 3 defensive ends go down my rookie year, and I had to be thrust into playing defensive end. You never know when your number's going to be called. We need every piece of this team to contribute in our ultimate goal of winning a championship. And those are things, and he talks about how difficult, how fleeting a moment it is to try and win a championship. And you recognize the urgency probably more via Micah Parsons than I've ever felt urgency from the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to winning.
Fair and not. I think there have been players through the years that had that urgency. One just went into the Hall of Fame. He won his Super Bowl with Denver. You look at a guy like a Jason Witten, and quite frankly, I think Dak has that. But the difference is the way Micah Parsons expresses himself. He doesn't talk in cliches. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind. I think he's being honest. And with Micah Parsons, he can back that up. He didn't talk that way his rookie year. He didn't really talk that way as much last year. But he knows he is one of the greatest players right now in the NFL. He knows he is favored to win Defensive Player of the Year. This is a man who feels like he belongs, that knows he belongs, and he can go out onto the field and he can prove it.
The Cowboys will end up playing their first game on Saturday of the preseason, and as we've expected, Dak not favored to play at all this preseason, according to Mike McCarthy. But you can still garner things out of the preseason. What are some of the things that you personally, especially as a Cowboys fan, are most looking forward to when it comes to this first bit of action on Saturday?
A couple little things. I mean, there are some players that I do want to see. Does he get it? But just some of the little
he's really
things
bendy.
Yeah, well, he's got great knee bend. But, Mike McCarthy calling plays. It's been a while since he's called plays in a live game. This is a big preseason game for Mike McCarthy, even though the game plan and the play calls will be very vanilla. Things that I'm looking forward out of Mike McCarthy, how quickly are you getting that play called in to your quarterback, and are they breaking the huddle and getting to the line of scrimmage? What kind of rhythm is he getting into? Because it's been a while. He, as a head coach and a play caller, you've got all kinds of things that you're dealing with, not just focused on what is the next play. And you've heard coordinators say, I know what my first down play is, and while first down's going on, I'm looking at what my third down options are so that I can figure out the second down option. So I'm curious to watch Mike McCarthy in that role. You've got a lot of young guys on this team. I mean, I am curious to see what Deuce Vaughn looks like in an NFL uniform, and does he look like he could be a running back, or is he just a gadget guy? Some of the wide receivers, like we were talking about on the blitz, you look at a Jalen Tolbert. He's had a good camp, year 1 to year 2. What kind of a jump is he making? I want to see if Mozzie Smith does play. How does he look at the NFL level? Some of the young safeties that they have, especially with injuries to Donovan Wilson, some of those other corners, because you are an injury away. And so, while Diggs and Gilmore are your starters, what are some of those other guys going to be able to do? And quite frankly, it's weird to say coming back from training camp and saying I can't wait to see, the star on the helmet, but so many of those dudes wear the Guardian cap, you don't actually see the star on many helmets. So just seeing football again.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you brought up
game.
I'm glad
I'll
you brought
something, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you cut out. I thought you had stopped talking, but I was actually going to say I was glad you brought up Mike McCarthy calling plays, because I didn't think about from a preseason aspect. But I was wondering now, are you going to be more attuned to possibly game situations, late game, clock management type situations, and how he balances that now?
To a degree now, from what I understand, and they keep kind of this stuff hush hush. They've got a clock coach. They and they've always had one, but I think Mike McCarthy will rely on that more because of his focus in calling the plays. But all of that matters. And again, it's preseason. If it's late in the game, you got a bunch of guys out there that aren't going to be on the regular season roster. So how they execute is one thing, but how they line up and how quickly they line up is something that you could say, okay, in practice, they need to work on that. But I do think some of that will be coming back to Mike McCarthy, making sure everybody is where they need to be and how quickly and clearly is that play called.
Jason Minnick's co-host of The Blitz, joining me now on Extra Innings with Pleasure. Hear him every weekday from 2 to 6, and of course on Friday nights, as he is a high school football guy, as our season's coming up August 25th, I believe.
Yeah, our first game will be kicking off our high school football coverage game of the week. Looking forward to some high school football for sure.
And it was amazing because that Johnny Manziel documentary and watching some of his Kerrville Tivy highlights and actually catching a couple of your highlights in that package of Kerrville Tivy stuff they were rolling. And you and Joe got into an interesting debate on the Blitz today, talking about some of the greatest high school football players from this area that you've seen live. And you've seen a whole lot of high school football covering the Rangers dating back to when I was in school.
Way
to
make me feel old, man. Way to make me feel old. Appreciate you. Somehow I don't remember little James Pledger out there on the football field.
It was very little. You want to see me.
But
it's like Deuce Vaughn.
I go back to I go back to you Sky over Deuce Vaughn, but I go back to some of those.
Not in high school, I didn't.
I think about little squatty running back. Think about like Jeff Shin back in the day at Smith and Valley. Trent Rios at Smith and Valley.
Tim Ivey.
Tim Ivey. I mean, Drew Snyder up there at New Braunfels Canyon, or even a Marcus Wright most recently.
Reagan.
Or even the Reagan running back from last year. I mean, there are a lot of little running backs, but I mean, the NFL. But yeah, there's so many great high school players. But when you think of, to sit down and create a list, which I've never done, and I think about, if somebody say who's some of the best players you ever see, Johnny Manziel is going to be in that conversation. Cliff Kingsbury is going to be in that conversation almost immediately. Jarrell Wilkerson is in that conversation. A Malcolm Brown is in that conversation. I mean, it might, and that's obviously a lot more recent. You go back to, before I was doing high school football play-by-play, and you just talk about San Antonio greats, obviously a Priest Holmes, an Indy Kalu, a Gerard Douglas, a Chris Pryor, so many great players have come through San Antonio. It's sometimes fun for me. Every year I do the San Antonio Sports All-Star football game, and in the program, they list that game's alumni that went on to the NFL. And it's just kind of a fun list to look at because San Antonio gets the knock that we don't develop the athletes the way Houston or Dallas does. And, to a degree, there is a lot of truth to that. We don't, or even Austin. But I do think that is changing over time. And I think a big part of that is, the growth of high school football in the state, but the growth of football in San Antonio is certainly got there, and recruiting has gotten better. I mean, it used to be a lot of those recruiters in college, you go to Houston, you go to Dallas, and then you kind of spawn out from there. I mean, that's why when Larry Coker started the UTSA program, he wanted to recruit San Antonio out because of all the hidden gems that were in San Antonio.
And I think about you calling you mentioned the San Antonio All-Star football game. I think about you calling the U.S. Army All-American football game, and I think even further out from Johnny Manziel and some of the great football you've seen because you've called those All-Star games. So you've seen some legitimate all-time great football players come through this city on a football field, not just in the San Antonio area. I'm talking about in the country.
Well, I mean, yeah, the All-American Bowl is special. And what I appreciate about broadcasting that game is there's a couple of days during that week I go down and I talk to a lot of the guys, especially the quarterbacks and the running backs, a receiver or two and a couple on defense that are going to get a lot of airtime during the broadcast. I go back before I was doing the play-by-play of that game, I was doing sidelines. And I remember the year Derrick Henry committed to Alabama at that game. And that's one of the cool things about that game is the guys that make their college declarations during the game. And, I remember talking to Derrick Henry moments after. So he picked his hat and he does the NBC deal and then he does the radio. And I said, why Alabama? And he said, Nick Saban is the only one that said I could play running back. So I'm going to go to Alabama and I'm going to win the Heisman Trophy. Everybody else wanted to turn that dude into a linebacker. And he went out and he did it. And he's still playing in the NFL today. I remember Zeke in that game. I think about Micah Parsons was in the game. One of the funniest ever in that game was Martellus Bennett, who ended up having a great career at A&M and then obviously, in the NFL for a number of years with the Cowboys. You look at, most recently, with Trevor Lawrence or even an Andrew Luck in that game.
Surprised you didn't bring up DJ Ungulalele.
Well, him, I couldn't say Tua's name. I still can't. It comes with it. But yeah, the All-American Bowl and the kids that play their final high school game in San Antonio, that list is long. When you look at the number of number one overall picks, Heisman Trophy winners, first round draft picks, and that game's been going on so long now, you get the number of all pros, and it's not going to be long before they have a pretty nice list of Hall of Famers. Now, I don't think they're there yet, but, that won't be long because that is just such a great high school sporting event, the All-American Bowl. You talk about the best of the best, and it really is.
I forget, did you get to see Tim Tebow play at that game?
I saw Tim Tebow play in that game, and I'll never forget Deshaun Jackson trying to hurdle in from the 5-yard line and landing a yard short.
The first of many times that he made a gaffe trying to get into the end zone.
Absolutely. I mean, I think about Amon St. Roy and what he was doing in that game. I mean, of athletes. And look, there's a long list of guys that you thought were going to be studs that flamed out in college or flamed out in the NFL. I mean, it's when you realize how hard it is to make it in the National Football League, because you can see them at, say, an All-American Bowl and you think, man, that guy's going to be great. And they might be great in college and then they can't make it in the NFL. Or, they're great in high school and they're great in that game, and for whatever reason, it doesn't work out for them at the college level. A lot of it's situation, a lot of it might be work ethic, and some of it's just pure talent taking that next step.
He is Jason Mannix. Catch him every weekday from 2 to 6 on the Blitz right here on San Antonio Sports Star. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Jason.
Appreciate it, Pledge.
When we come back, though, the other half of the Blitz, Mr. Joe Reinagle will be joining me to find out exactly what he thinks of upcoming preseason football, especially when it pertains to the Dallas Cowboys and maybe even his Tennessee Titans. That's all coming up here on Extra Innings with Pleasure right here on San Antonio Sports Star, 94.1 FM and sasportstar.com.
It's Dallas Cowboys football on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. This Saturday, it's the Cowboys and Jags at 3 p.m.
3:11 in the game. Out of the gun, back to Dak. Now he's taking another shot in the end zone. Left side of the end zone. Touchdown.
Presented by the law office of Jesse Hernandez, the Texas Chancla, Ewald Kubota, Mother's Window Tin, AA Best Bail Bonds, Woods Comfort Systems, and 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
Smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that Febreze car. Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency, all over Febreze car clips right on your face. Yeah. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooh, ma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Uma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Uma?
Yep, switching to Uma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Uma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
I know a lot of you really want the State Farm personal price plan, but what's with the oversharing? Like this voicemail from Leah.
Jake from State Farm. Listen, so sometimes I like to nibble on licorice and pretend I'm a teeny mouse, chewing through wires.
You don't need to get that personal. The State Farm personal price plan helps you create an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com for a quote today.
Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Kelley Blue Book is the one-stop shop for pricing, fixing, selling, and instant cash offering. Instant Cash Offer is exactly what it sounds like. An official offer to buy or trade your car. Just enter your VIN or license plate, answer a few questions about your car's history, and what kind of condition it's in. In minutes, you'll receive an offer to sell or trade your car that you can be sure is fair. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car and schedule a time to meet. For all of the its, KBB.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, with an auto warranty about to expire, or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost, month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-627-3604. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-627-3604. That's 800-627-3604. What do you have to lose? Call 800-627-3604. Again, 800-627-3604.
I am James, Senior Apparel Designer, and this is Behind the Design with Hawks. Hawks is your classic workwear brand. It's designed for those guys that are on the job site. Just driven performance, just rugged and comfortable. Thinking of durability, everything is either double, triple stitched, bar tack. It's going to perform, it's going to move with you, it's going to have everything that you need in a product. Hawks, only at Boot Barn.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Score $1,000 cash for back to school and another $1K for your favorite school or charity. Register to win now at sasportstar.com. Good luck from the Institute for Functional Health and 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. Listen to 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star on your Amazon or Google smart speaker and just say, Alexa, play the Blitz on San Antonio Sports Star.
Phone updates never come at an optimal time. This is just one moment of that. But luckily, there was still someone in the building that could help me out as Joe Reinagle joins me, the other co-host of the Blitz, weekdays from 2 to 6. As you know, Joe, especially with Androids, usually those phone updates go pretty swiftly. This one did not want to. It started updating during Minix's interview and persisted through the break.
They're still the best, though, Pledge. You know that.
Oh, man. Absolutely.
I mean, these sheep that use Apple phones, I don't know what's wrong with them.
I don't either. It's a much more user-friendly interface with Android, so you can do more.
It takes a little higher intelligence to use an Android.
That's probably why.
I understand.
We get football this week.
I know,
we
that's great.
We get real starters. The Cowboys aren't going to play many starters, I don't think. No Dak Prescott, probably not a lot of Micah Parsons or Tony Pollard. As a matter of fact, I don't think you'll see any of them at all this preseason. But Saturday right here, you can catch the Cowboys because there are still a lot of things that you can garner from the preseason, especially a team that feels as close as the Cowboys do right now. So what are some of those things that you are most enticed about by this weekend's game for the Cowboys?
Well, I said earlier on the Blitz today that I'm really interested in the quarterback battle, and I think that the Cowboys thought that Will Grier would be a guy that could maybe challenge one day to be the quarterback. And I think last year, if you look at training camp, it was a consensus. Will Grier was out playing Cooper Rush, and then he got hurt, and Cooper slid in, and we all know what Cooper Rush did when Dak Prescott got hurt. But I want to see him play. Mike McCarthy's already said that Grier is going to get a lot of playing time in these 3 preseason games. And I think that tells me basically they want to see, is this the guy or is he not? Because, the Cooper Rush signed a 2-year contract, but really that second year is the Cowboys' option. So if Will Grier's good enough, maybe if he's not the starter or the future, at least he can slide in there to a second string position. So I'm really looking forward to watching Will Grier play, see how he's doing, see how he performs. And then obviously, the elephant in the room with the Cowboys is that offensive line. I want to see how they do. The depth is not so great. We all know about Zach Martin. And I want to see how these guys perform. Are they going to be able to sustain if they have to without Zach Martin, number one? And if somebody gets hurt, like Tyron Smith, who will? Everybody knows it. It's just a matter of when. So I want to see that. And then, obviously the defense, Pledge, is the star of the show this year. I think everybody agrees with that. But it's, how are they doing depth-wise, I think is going to be important as well.
And you talk about depth. My main concern of depth is behind Tony Pollard. You've got a bunch of guys, and they can say whatever they want about Rico Dowdle or Malik Davis or Deuce Vaughn and how they plan to use them. As well as I do, one of the hardest things to judge right now is running back down. You get a hand on them, you kind of let them go. So every run looks like a great run in training camp. And so actually seeing live action of them trying to find the hole, press the hole, and then break tackles at the line of scrimmage, that's going to be a very important eye test, I think, for the Dallas Cowboys and the future of what's behind Tony Pollard.
You look at it, all the talk has been about Rico Dowdle in camp and how good he looks. The guy's finally healthy. He's had injury problems, which is too bad for him, but he's finally healthy. I think he has overtaken, at least in the coaches' minds, Malik Davis at this point in time. So I think both of those guys will get some time. Both of them seem to be healthy, so there's no reason why both of those guys won't be able to play. How they use Deuce Vaughn, I don't know, but I got to tell you, Pledge, I agree with you sometimes. We disagree sometimes, but the most intelligent statement I think I've ever heard you say is to not get too excited about training camp because they don't tackle to the ground. All you Deuce Vaughn fanatics out there, keep that in mind. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they use those guys and how they use Vaughn. Will they give him an opportunity to, hand the ball off to him and let him try to run up the middle? It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and that is the hardest thing to judge when it comes to training camp, in my opinion. Like, you can gauge getting separation from a guy. You can still at least get your hands on people and beat people at the line of scrimmage, but you don't tackle to the ground. And the most important thing for a running back is being able to break that tackle and get to the next level. And you just can't see or gauge that or even replicate it in training camp for the most part.
No, you can't. And that's why it's going to be fun to watch on Saturday to see how all of these guys do. Because, it's not just them. The only guys that really get the hard work are the offensive and defensive lines. They go at each other. So for them, Saturday afternoon's not going to be all that much different, but everybody else, it will be. And that's why I don't like preseason, Pledge, and I do. For geeks like us who live and breathe this kind of stuff, and you can watch and pick out guys that may or may not make the team just to see how they play, it's going to be a lot of fun. The average sports fan can't wait till the regular season begins. Could care less about preseason. I'm looking forward to it just to really study it almost, It's funny. You get in front of the TV and you watch and maybe even roll it back and watch another play again just to see what happened here and there. So for me, man, I can't be more excited. It is just, I'm ready to see it. And I'll be honest with you. I'm ready to see tomorrow night with the Texans play, because I think they're going to play most of their guys. I don't think they have much choice. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I do too, because there's been as much positive buzz as there's been for the Cowboys this offseason in terms of adding Brandon Cooks and Stephon Gilmore and being kind of knocking at the door. While the Texans aren't knocking at the door of a Super Bowl, they are knocking at the door of relevance again. And they have done a lot of things that have gotten a lot of people outside of Houston even excited. You had the NFL Network on site there yesterday talking about the vibes that were just coming out of Houston now that DeMeco Ryans is in charge, and some of the moves that they made not only this offseason but in the draft and leading into trading camp this year.
You being the big Texans fan that you are, that Bill O'Brien just imploded that team. It was horrible. But the fact that they've come back and then you hired DeMeco Ryans, that in itself is enough excitement. But then to pull off what they pulled off in the draft with C.J. Stroud and then making the trade to get Will Anderson Jr. in there as well. Texan fans have a reason to be excited about this team. If not this year, then a year, 2, 3 down the road, I think the Texans are going to be relevant. They're going to be playoff contenders. And so I'm glad that there's excitement there. The Texans have had some good teams in the past, but boy, it's been rough these last few years. And I don't have to tell you that, firsthand. But it's fun, and I'm glad they're going to be relevant. Obviously, the Texans are in a very difficult conference. The AFC is about as strong as it's ever been, but I'm glad to see that they're making the moves. They're planning for the future. They're rebuilding, and it's going to be fun to watch them this year.
I didn't know if you've seen this, so I'm kind of shooting off the cuff here, but have you seen those designs and models they've made of that brand new, beautiful stadium they're planning to build up there in Tennessee for your Titans?
Yes, I have, as a matter of fact. And, if that old mayor of Houston many years ago would have just done that, we'd still have the Houston Oilers running around Houston. It's going to be, hey, these stadiums are incredible.
These stadiums are
and it's like
insane. And I was wondering if you were going to try and catch a game once this new monument's built.
Well, any excuse to go to Nashville is a good excuse. So that would be as good as any. But, these owners are outdoing each other now. You had Jerry was the first $1 billion stadium. Then you got SoFi, which outdoes that. It's crazy. These places are palaces, and it's unreal.
But the fact that they're palaces means the game watching experience is that much better too, though.
Well, there's no question about it. I love going to Jerry World. And seeing SoFi last year was fun, but seeing a game in Jerry World is just such an experience. I know it's expensive. I know a lot of people can't do a lot of it, but man, if you get the opportunity to go to a game at Jerry World or any other of these big palace stadiums, it's worth it. Spend the money, go see it. You're going to enjoy yourself, and it's fabulous.
He is Joe Ryangle, co-host of The Blitz, every weekday from 2 to 6 with him and Jason Innings. Thanks for your time this afternoon, Joe.
Anytime, Pledge.
Man, it is wild, and just the feeling of football being back in our lives. makes me so excited. The fact that I'm able to talk about the Texans again, that they're back in the world of relevance, the fact that the Patrick Mahomes are back in our lives. This is just going to be an epic season because, especially on the AFC side of things, it is just a gauntlet of teams. And then on the NFC side of things, you know who the real players are. Can the Lions take that step up to join that group after kind of flirting with it last year? Can the Rams regain after a year of injuries and get back into that equation? It's going to be very interesting to see how things play out. But one thing that did play out today was Henry Ruggs' court case, as he was sentenced to what ended up being because this was an event that happened in Las Vegas. And so he gets sentenced to between 3+ years. It was 3 to 10-year prison term for his endeavors in a high-speed DUI that resulted in the fatality of a young lady and her dog late one night. But someone else entered the chat today once this news came out, and when things like these happen, O.J. Simpson's not the guy you want to be hearing from.
Hey, X-World, it's me, yours truly. Now, I know I went to college on a football scholarship, but somehow this math is not adding up to me. You're driving a car at roughly 160 miles an hour on a public street and end up killing a girl and her dog, and you get 3 to 10 years. You go to a hotel room that you're invited to retrieve your own personal stolen property I now have because it was ruled to be mine by the state of California. And you get 9 to 33 years. Same courthouse, same city, same state. I don't know. Somehow it just does not add up to me.
Look, Juice, I think it adds up to a lot of people because, let's face it, it wasn't about the crime you committed at the time, which, by the way, was a crime because you held the door shut and basically kidnapped people. You held people against their will, and they were not going to allow that. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all this plays out with O.J. Simpson on Twitter, or X as he likes to call it now, and continue to follow for your daily dose of just what the heck was that. But I'm pouring one out for Juice on the way out the door here on Extra Innings with pleasure. Thanks for riding along with me. We'll see y'all tomorrow night.
Buyers Barricades is proud to provide traffic control, rental, and sales for work zones and events in the San Antonio area and beyond. Buyers Barricades, the Texas Authority.